and welcome to the Hero Report podcast. My name is Ari Cohen. I am a professor of political science at the University of Nebraska, and with me, as always, looking bright-eyed and bushy-tailed after a few hours of jet-lagged sleep, it's Matt Langdon of the Hero Construction Company in sunny Michigan. You must be surprised to see the sun now, Matt, since you went to bed only 4 or 5 hours ago.
I am indeed, although it is Michigan in summer, so the sun is barely obvious, let's say.
Okay. Fair enough. Also with us today, we're very happy that it's not just the two of us talking. We're tired of that, even after just one episode back from hiatus. So we're fortunate to have a guest with us today. It's Shawn Furey from sunny Maine. I assume everywhere is sunny. I'm sitting in a basement office right now where there are no windows, so I presume that everywhere is sunny. Shawn, welcome. It's great to have you here.
Thank you, Ari. Thank you, Matt. It's an honor and a pleasure to be a part of the podcast today.
Great. For those of you who are listening, you will notice no problems at all. For those of you who are watching, you will notice that Shawn does not actually appear. Instead, he is represented by an avatar of, I think, a knight on a horse. We do this, of course, because Shawn is preserving his secret identity. By day, Shawn has a normal, mild-mannered career that he'll tell us about in a moment. By night, of course, Shawn Furey stalks the darkness in Waterville, Maine, fighting crime. So in order to, I'm just kidding. People who can't see my face, or maybe people who can, I should say, this is sarcasm. Shawn is not actually a heroic crime fighter, but with the name Shawn Furey, I couldn't resist. Just like last week with the Australian animals, I couldn't resist. So Shawn, sorry and welcome. We're glad to have you. We're sorry the camera is not working, but I'm glad that the audio is.
Thank you.
Yeah. So Matt, why don't you get us started here? Since you've had an exciting 24 hours talking to the media, we'll have you start talking right again.
All right. Yeah, I wanted Shawn to come on the show today for a number of reasons. One, he kind of recently waded into the definition of heroism conversation you were having by yourself online, and Shawn got in touch with me through Hero Construction Company probably at least a year ago, I think, and just sort of introduced what he was doing. Which I think is really a cool thing, and he's also going to be presenting a breakout session at the Hero Round Table November 9th and 10th. So, Shawn, I'll have you introduce yourself to the guests and sort of explain what your angle is on heroism as far as what you're doing. Why are you on the show as concerning your job and efforts?
Absolutely. Basically, I met Matt about a year ago online. I was surfing the web looking at some videos on mythology, and I ran across a video on YouTube about the hero's journey, and I think it said the Hero Construction Company at the end of it, or there was a link to that. And I was really impressed, and I realized in that moment that someone else was doing something that I wanted to do. And because I've been working as a coach, I have a coaching business called Life Management Coaching Solutions, and I've been spending the past 6 years creating a curriculum that would help people as a kind of a cognitive behavioral change-based program where people could learn new skills about life and managing their circumstances. But specifically, all of those, I started thinking about it, and I realized that all of those skills really have to do with character development and skill building. And that's when I started looking around at the world of heroism, and I found Matt's website, and I thought, I have to email this guy and tell him that I think this is really cool and the world needs what he's doing. So I did, and he gave me some good encouragement and feedback to pursue my own thing. And I ended up starting up the Hero Support Network. And the idea behind that is that every hero has somebody behind the scenes equipping them with the tools they need to get the job done. If you think about it, James Bond had Q, the Angels had Charlie, Superman had his holographic dad, and Batman had Alfred. So now the ordinary person can be equipped with a guide, which would be someone like me and you guys, a team of people on a Facebook discussion group that are also interested in making a positive impact in their life and in their community, and then also get some training and some practice. We do a weekly group online as a webinar where people can talk about what their experiences are that week, how things are going as they apply some new knowledge and skills that they learn in do a training. I call it agency and impact training. So people can learn about how to initiate and sustain a course of action and manage the impact that people, places, interactions, and events are having on their ability to be well and to do well in life. And that's about it in a nutshell, a long nutshell.
What's the reaction been to the hero angle, I suppose? Are people connecting to that? And how are they connecting, and sort of what responses have you had?
Well, so far the hero angle has been the most well received through like Facebook and Twitter marketing. People seem to really respond well to the idea of the Hero Support Network. I haven't gotten so much of a return on the life management coaching solutions side because I think that's a little too abstract. You know, people don't really know what life management means. Or they think that it has like a big word or something, you know. But for me, I think that right now we have about 30 people in our weekly group, so it's pretty small. But overall, the really cool part is our YouTube videos. I make YouTube videos, and I actually put my whole curriculum online in our website so that someone that didn't have any money, let's say, because I've been trying to see if I can make a living at this, like $10 a month or something as a monthly subscription. And people that can't pay can do it for free and can watch the skill videos. And the cool thing about that is that so far they've been watched in 25 countries around the world. So I'm pretty psyched about that.
That's really cool. So tell us your web address so people can go and check this stuff out.
Yeah, it's www.herosupportnetwork.com, and on that website I have links to our weekly group, which I've been calling a mastermind meeting because it's many minds getting together, and kind of working on problem solving. And the whole point of that, by the way, is to try to prevent people from making poor choices, like going out and getting involved in drugs and alcohol or acting out in different ways. And hope sounds like the doorbell just went off. And so basically, herosupportnetwork.com, and if someone is, they want to develop character in their employees or their coworkers or their friends or family, but they're not as attuned to the hero language, I've set up a website called agencyandimpact.com that just leads directly to the training. You see what I mean?
Yep. So have you ever had any pushback on the word hero from people? Is anyone finding it hokey or intimidating or just off-putting in any way?
Yeah, I mean, I've had pretty much there's been a large amount of people in the local community who have sort of not understood what it is I'm trying to do. And I've definitely gotten some bad feedback from them about that. Like, they tend to think that I am acting better than, whenever you talk about being a hero, someone thinks, well, you must be arrogant, But my whole point is that I believe we were all born to be heroic, and that heroic living is really the only way you can sustain, a flourishing life. Like Maslow's idea of self-actualization and things they talk about in positive psychology about, positive relationships and positive emotions and stuff. Because there's always going to be people that will come and try to, take that away from you in one way or another. And some of them do it on purpose, and some do it by without knowing. Maybe they're afraid of confrontation, so they, just like you say, the bystander effect. And if you're going to be able to maintain those pro-hero schools like you talk about, or the pro-hero workplace or family, there's going to be that point when you have to be able to stand up for that psychosocial well-being that you've built there. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So what would you say your inspiration and source material has been? Is there anyone that you're sort of drawing from, like Campbell or Zimbardo, or or is it more broad than that even?
No, there's definitely a few people that have really influenced my approach, and I have to tell you that when I saw that you were hooked up with Philip Zimbardo, Dr. Zimbardo has been someone that I've really admired throughout my college years, and I actually read his book, The Lucifer Effect, a long time ago, and so I'm really psyched to see that you guys are teamed up and that he's actually working on heroism too. I think this is a really important move in the future. And the people that influenced me specifically was his work on, understanding that evil can be socially constructed and situationally based, and just extrapolating on that good can be the same way. Good character can be developed that way. And Albert Bandura was another big one for me because he talks about human agency. In like 1997, I think it was, he published some articles about how people can be taught by a guide to develop skills that they would need in order to construct healthy environments in which to live. And the third big player for me there was Dr. Martin Seligman and some of the other positive psychologists. And I borrowed from them their work on what it means to flourish. So Seligman, Bandura, Dr. Zimbardo, and then I've always been a big fan of philosophy in general and how people think and how that affects their behavior. So.
Shawn, let me jump in and ask you if maybe you could say a little bit more about these ideas of sort of human flourishing and the like, and sort of how you see them connected to heroism.
Definitely. Well, that's actually been the part that really, it took me 6 years to put it all together in a way that I could double check it and make sense so that I could talk to someone about it and have them understand, because there was a lot of abstract ideas. But specifically, if you take Maslow's ideas about self-actualization, and way back in 1934, there was a guy named Kurt Goldstein who was a biologist, and he talked about how all life on Earth has a drive to self-actualize, just like Maslow, to become your full self. And if you think of that, behind all of our human differences, what do we all have in common with, in my opinion, plants and animals too? And it's what I call an agenda of life and aliveness, that most all life forms, as far as I've studied, will fight to stay alive under typically healthy circumstances. They try to grow to reach their potential, and then when they reach their full potential, they'll express their character, in full bloom, whether you're the rose bush or the mighty eagle. And in the human world, of course, positive psychologists talk about flourishing as, you have self-actualization, you're being your full self, you have healthy relationships and positive emotions. Achievement is something that you're doing in your life, you're being productive, and also experiencing flow states where time seems to slow down because you're good at what you do and you enjoy it. And I feel like that when a hero isn't in a defensive posture protecting, like Gotham City, for example, what are they doing? And I think what they would be doing is what a lot of the moral heroes on Matt's website are doing. They're out there creating social environments that are conducive to human well-being and flourishing. So I guess that's what I would say about that.
I think that's really fascinating. So I'm going to ask you to go a little further even with that.
Sure.
When you talk about being out there and sort of helping to create these these environments, right? What would be some examples of that? And I presume this is the sort of stuff that you talk about in your chats or webinars or whatever. What are some examples that you can think of? What is it that these people ought to be doing or are doing?
Right. Great question. And actually, that's really been the thing that I'm trying to bring to the field, as far as a new development, hopefully in psychology and social sciences, is in regards to how do we prevent people from making poor choices and prevent bad behavior in different settings, while also motivating people towards their full potential. And I feel like the thing that's been missing in the literature that I was looking at is, what does it actually mean to be well, right? Because history is full of successful people that stomped on their families, or maybe they decided at the end of their life to commit suicide because they weren't happy, or they might have lost everything and become, something that they never had thought they would be. And so the well-being piece comes in, and what I'm offering is the idea that there are objective ways of measuring psychosocial well-being at home, at work, at school, etc. And there's a subjective component as well. So, for example, the subjective experience of well-being in any of those settings, you could say, for example, might be safety, right? I feel safe when I'm at school or at home. And the thing that you can notice, the objective thing, is security in that social environment. There's an absence of threat. That's one of those ideas. And so I have 12 qualities of well-being that need to be in a social environment. I call it nutrient-rich content, just like a plant would need to be in fertile soil in order to reach its full potential. So the idea is that we are always constructing our social spaces as co-authors of the moment, and that that's one place where I've gotten some kind of challenging feedback is I tend to challenge the idea that how people say you can't change people, so don't even try. But I think that if we have that as a default belief, we sort of forget that we are always influencing others and that they're always influencing us. And so what I can do is understand that as a participant, I'm affected by the character of the environments in which I live, just like any other living being would be in like an ecosystem. And as I can observe as an observer how I'm being affected, and I can also understand that I am affecting the cultivation of that nutrient-rich content in my social environments. And I can act as a creator to do things that will bring about or cultivate that experience of well-being for people. So, for example, if I want to experience safety, I can cultivate security by managing the way I approach and respond to situations, right? Using virtues. This is where I got from the positive psychology. So, for example, the virtue of bravery and the virtue of caution, right? I want to be brave, but I want to balance that with caution, because bravery without caution could become recklessness, and caution without bravery could become cowardice. So by trying to cultivate these habits of character, when I go into any environment, at home, at school, at work, hopefully I would be more likely to act in a way that would sustain security.
It sounds like there's a lot of Aristotle in this, Shawn.
Yeah, there is. That was
I
another big influence on me.
When I teach my class on ancient political thought, which is where we talk about heroism and choice-worthy lives and so on,
nice.
I have a long section on Aristotle where we read both from the ethics and the politics and talk about these virtues. So it struck me right away when you were talking about a flourishing life and the virtues that surely you must be a reader of Aristotle. So I'd be I'd be remiss if I didn't ask you to say something here about what you're drawing from there.
Absolutely, and I totally forgot to mention Aristotle was a big part of this, um, especially right. Typically, my background has been working in the social services field, so I've been exposed to a lot of the dark side of human nature, and a lot of people have told me, you know, about how they came to make these poor choices in their lives, and a lot of times they've said, well, Shawn, how do you know what the right thing is to do in any situation? And so I got to thinking that that's a really worthy idea to pursue. And right away I thought of Aristotle and the concept of the good life. And that I read an article, I forget who it was by, but it was someone in psychology talking about how psychologists and other social scientists, we always try to stand back and not say this is how you ought to live. Instead, we just try to say, like, someone who is kind to others tends to live a longer, happier life than someone who's mean, you know? But I started to think that what if you were to really get involved and say, listen, it's not maybe you have these problems in your life that are going on, like anxiety or depression and stuff, and I'm not a clinician or anything, so I don't diagnose, but my point is that I think a lot of what we've attributed to being different types of problems are actually caused by character and habit problems. People have been taught in a way that maybe doesn't lead them to the good life. And so this article that I had read was saying you need to know how to be the right person for the job of doing the right thing if you want to create that good life experience. And so I thought, just like in Eastern philosophy, you're always in these Eastern philosophy books, there's always a student that has a teacher. There's always someone that can guide them. But what if you're someone like me whose parents did the best they could, but maybe we're not able to be a guide for you, And now you're trying to live this good life, but you don't know how to go about doing that in a way that maybe will be functional, right? And it doesn't necessarily come from like a religious point of view, but is something that all human beings could get behind.
This is fascinating stuff for me. That courage versus caution really speaks to me. I get that question essentially very often. Like, how should I work out whether I should do this? Whether I should take this risk or make this sacrifice for other people, and there is no set objective answer. There's no right answer that I can.
Right.
I'm not the person who can answer that question in each situation. So there's clearly a lot of room there for people to learn about that decision making process.
Exactly.
Right. I think that's really the key, right? And I think that's something that we talk about pretty often here on the podcast, Matt and I anyway, that ultimately this isn't about providing people with the answer to every situation that might arise, right? It's about getting the tools ultimately to start making those decisions for oneself, right? And I think that that's really something that strikes me in what you're doing, right? It's not saying here's a list of all the possible things that could happen, and here's how you should act in those situations. Here's the right choice and the wrong choice.
Right.
But it's about figuring out sort of these balances that you're talking about, right?
Exactly.
And how to get the balance right, and how you in a situation that presents itself. Can make a choice that you'll later think to yourself, this was the right choice. I'm glad that I made it.
Exactly. Yeah, as a matter of fact, that is a really good point, because I mean that's been one of the things that people have been confused about when I've presented it in the class is they might think I'm telling them how to live their life. And what I always say right away is no. Like, this is actually the opposite of that. What I'm just saying is that we always think that we're so different than everyone else, but just like a rose is different from a lilac, they're both still plants, you know. And even though you guys might be in Michigan or have been in Australia and I'm in Maine, the same laws of human nature govern all three of us, you know, in the sense that we need certain things in order to bring the best out in us. And when people can understand what those commonalities are, I think it gives a clue to what they can try to do in order to bring about that good life experience that they're looking for. And I actually have come up with kind of I haven't thought of a neat little word for it, like an acronym, but a way of measuring a strategy if it's one that is going to be leading to that good life. And basically what it is whenever I'm going into a tough situation, I'll ask myself, as a guide, I'll say, whatever you're about to do, you know, you can handle whatever this tough situation is, but just remember to do the thing that is safe, legal, goal-directed, meaning it's directed towards whatever the good life, you know, experience you're trying to have, and that it's constructive in the sense that it won't tear you or the other people down or your social norms, you know, that you've worked hard to create in that pro-hero place, and then to try to do the thing that is mindfully implemented, you know, to do it, don't do it drunk or high or full of anxiety and fear, but try to be calm and aware. And then lastly, try to do the thing that is considerate of self, others, and environment, and that's sustainable, meaning that it's good for you now, or the effects of it will be good now on, you know, all those different parties, and also good later. Because so many people I've met, I used to work with men that had been convicted of domestic violence, and so often I'd hear the same exact story about how they made a choice in the moment that they thought would work, and then in the long run it came back and destroyed their life and the lives of their partners and kids. So.
Well, let's unless you want to have anything else, Ari, let's switch gears to what you're planning to bring to the conference, Shawn. Just to give the audience a little background on this, the Hero Round Conference Hero Round Table is going to be a set of speakers who are speaking for about 12 minutes, and then in the afternoon of the first day there'll be 2 breakout sessions of about an hour, and Shawn's going to provide one of those that people will be able to sign up for. So I'm really curious to hear, I mean, I've obviously seen your submission, but I'd love to hear you talk about what you want to bring to the people at the conference.
Definitely. I saw your press conference last night, by the way. That was awesome. And I'm really excited to be going to the conference. Basically, you know, I've been throwing around some different ideas for how do I describe what it is that I do, and I had actually set it up as a driver's ed for the Road of Life course, and that's basically, from my point of view, it's a user-friendly way of talking about the agency and impact training. But even still, sometimes I've found that people will think that that's going to be good for their teenagers, but not for them. And it's actually geared towards adults. You know, that's the community that I typically work with. But it also applies to teenagers too. And you know, maybe sometime we could collaborate on stuff like that, because I know you work in the high schools and middle schools, and I have no experience doing that. But basically, the driver's ed for the Road of Life course is all the things that I may not have gotten taught growing up about how to manage any situation for a positive outcome, and how to cultivate those pro-hero social environments. Because see, the hero really plays in here because Albert Bandura talks a lot about self-efficacy and how a person needs to be able to have confidence in their ability to rise to the occasion and solve a problem. And to me, that sounds like a hero, you know, because in those tough moments when you have to be brave and you have to stand up for yourself or others in a pro-social, socially appropriate way, you know, that's good for everybody, that isn't selfish or dominating, then you need to be able to be prepared for that moment. I actually was inspired by something that Matt had said a long time ago in one of you guys' videos, where he was talking about somebody that was a hero in one of those YouTube videos, and he mentioned about how they had been trained as a police officer. And so right away that got me thinking about, that agency piece, that someone has been trained in how to initiate and sustain a course of action, even when they're out on their own, right? So I think it's kind of related to leadership in some ways, and that got me keyed up on what could you teach someone to prepare them for life, no matter what form of life they're presented with. Like you said, Ari, there's got to be a way for me to be prepared to deal with anything. So what people can expect is I'm going to give them some specific, maybe like 4 or 5 things that they can take home and apply in their own life or their own school setting. If you're a teacher, this is how you could create a social environment that's conducive to that flourishing or that learning experience. And at home, how to create a home life where people can be well, with no abuses going on in the home and stuff like that. And specifically, I have 32 skills that I teach people that I maybe just kind of like would show in a handout or go through quickly, but that include things like being able to be assertive, being able to have a vision for the future, be able to create strategies, and how to navigate through power struggles in a way that sustains what you've created and also sustains positive relationships with others. So there's more to it, but that's about it in a nutshell.
That's a lot of stuff.
Yeah. It's definitely a lot. I spent a lot of time on it. I've basically been obsessed with that for the past 6 years because I personally feel like this is the future of social services and a lot of other things. I feel like we're all sort of on the leading edge of a new wave in, I don't know, psychology or sociology or philosophy, but I know that people need this, because people are always taught. I think that so many people are taught that they are less valuable than they really are, and they're taught that I think I heard you say, Ari, once, that in a podcast that people have a lower self-esteem. Maybe it was. I think it might have been one where you guys were talking to Mike Dilbeck, and that people believe that they cannot live this life they perceive as being, somewhere out there on the fringe of experience. But one of the things I often think about is, what's the point of being heroic if you're only going to do it once in your whole life? You know what I mean? Seems like there's lots of little ways that people can be heroic every day, and that would have big results for them.
That's going to be great. I have this feeling towards the conference where I am really excited about being there, but I have to keep pinching myself and telling myself that I'm not going to be able to see every breakout session or probably even every talk and be part of every conversation that's going to happen. But I'm excited for everyone else that's going to be there for sure.
Thank you. Me too. I think it's going to be great.
Yeah. Ari, have you got any closing comments for?
The way that Shawn ended his last comment was like a perfect, I think, way to end what we're talking about. So I don't even want to tarnish it by saying any more. I thought that was really, really nice, and I'll have to plan to come by that breakout session in November.
Excellent.
Well, there you go, Shawn. You've got one person attending your breakout session for sure.
Yeah.
All right, I'm less nervous already.
As long as I don't schedule Ari to do one opposite you.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough.
Well, Shawn, thanks very much for coming on the podcast, and it's been really got me thinking about what I can do to help answer those questions to audiences when I'm speaking. Yeah, thank you very much, and let us know or let the audience know the websites again that they can find you and your stuff.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. I've been looking forward to this opportunity for ever since I first contacted you. I thought, man, I can't wait until I get my act together enough to where I'm believable. But yeah, you can go to www.herosupportnetwork.com, and I actually have a link there to the 32 skills of a person that I think of as capable of being heroic. Um, and I think on the website it's listed as an influential and effective life manager. But I'm probably going to be kind of tweaking the websites. I update them myself, so it takes me a little while. The other website for people that want to, maybe there's someone that's in a helping profession and they want to do a good job as a change agent in their workplace. That's the Agency and Impact website, and that's www.agencyandImpact.com. So thanks a lot.
Well, thank you, Shawn, and we will see you in 3 short months.
All right, I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, everyone, and thanks again, all of you out there, for listening or watching. We will see you next time on the Hero Report. Take care.